Welcome back to the FreeMelon Society, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Martyr. Thank you for being with me here today. What we are going to be discussing here in the secret classroom is the difference between fitness and health. We have many presuppositions and ideas about what constitutes health and fitness. And these two terms are often conflated with one another, so that when we see people who have a high level of fitness, we tend to associate that image with what is healthy. Which isn't necessarily wrong, but it definitely can be. And it's this conflation of terms that has led us to a little bit of confusion whenever we hear about healthy people dying or having physical ailments or whatnot. It doesn't have to be confusing, but once one understands that fitness is a far cry from health, or at least it can be, then, you start to recognize, that makes sense that this person's body is not in the greatest condition, even though the heart is very aerobically strong, or the muscles are very big and ostensibly healthy. Okay, so it's the purpose of this lecture to draw a clear line of delineation between fitness and health. And I'm going to, explain this in my particular own way, and hopefully this will help with recognizing fitness for what it is and health for what it is. So the first thing that we should do is we should start with a couple of definitions. So let's go with physical fitness. What is physical fitness? Now, you can find definitions of physical fitness everywhere, and there are tons of different definitions as to what it is. Same thing with health. You can find definitions of health virtually anywhere, right? You're not going to be hard pressed to find one. I've looked at many, I've thought about, what these things are, what these dynamics are, and I've tried to distill these definitions into points that are clearly separate from one another, but related. And anyway, why don't I just give you these definitions now, and then you can think about them, you can cross-examine them. If you feel they make sense, great. If not, then maybe something else makes sense for you. But this is what I consider a proper working definition of these two things, and helps to extract some of the complications from our understanding of these two different states. So physical fitness can be defined as simply the capacity to perform physical work. That's it. Physical fitness is the body's capacity to perform physical work. Now, you recognize that the term capacity, right, just that term capacity, it includes within that statement all of the other attributes of fitness, whether it's aerobic capacity, whether it's stamina, whether it's flexibility, whether it's strength, or whether it's power. The word capacity takes into account all of these things that we associate with fitness. Well, what is the definition of the word capacity? Capacity is the maximum amount that something can contain. Okay, so the maximum amount that something can contain. So if physical fitness is the capacity to perform work, then it means a high level of physical fitness will mean a high capacity to do physical work. And that physical work can be a range from anything in the flexibility, strength, power, coordination, whatever. A high level of those is a high capacity of those things. And so if you have those high capacities, you are highly physically fit. If you have a low capacity for any of those physical functions, you have a low level of physical fitness. Okay, so that's a very easy definition, right? The capacity to perform physical work. That's physical fitness. What is health? Health is different from physical fitness. Now, here's where this definition is probably different from other definitions that you've heard elsewhere. You won't find this definition conventionally on Google or whatever, okay? I've taken into account occult principles in defining health and natural law considerations in defining health. Health can be defined as the degree to which the divine, creative, and harmonic force of nature is allowed to operate and express itself unimpeded in a physical vehicle. Let me say that one more time. Health can be defined as the degree to which the divine, creative, and harmonic force of nature is allowed to operate and express itself unimpeded in a physical vehicle. So what do I mean by that? Even Einstein himself recognized that there was a force, a natural force in nature that is beyond our comprehension, that works in the backdrop of all physical forms of manifestation to bring things to life, to energize things, to power, the electrons and the protons and the neutrons, and to power the universe itself. This natural force that is beyond our comprehension is perfect. It is perfect energy. It is perfect balance, perfect harmony. Now, think of all of the things in the world that this perfect, divine, natural force brings into existence and harmonizes and balances. Okay? Look at the alignment of the planets. The precise mathematical arrangements between the Earth and the Moon and the Sun. Okay? You can get into this. There are books on this. For researchers and Earth scientists that really understand this topic, it's easier to understand the mathematical relationships between the Earth and the Moon and the Sun as impossible, rather than just a random occurrence. There's no randomness. Everything in the universe is done in accordance with a divine prescription, a natural force that brings into perfect harmonic balance everything it touches, so long as that it runs unimpeded by an extraneous force. The sun is this beautiful spherical entity that is kept in perfect electromagnetic balance, that exudes its solar forces and powers the galaxy. The earth, this beautiful organism, right, that lives and breathes, right? It has structure just like our bodies. All of the plant life on Earth is designed to live in perfect balance with the organisms, right? The vegetation breathing in and out. Its waste products are what we thrive on, and our waste products are what they thrive on. It's perfect balance. Childbirth. Look at childbirth. I've mentioned this in other lectures, I think. If you think you can understand childbirth, I've got news for you. You're wrong. You don't understand childbirth. Nobody does. It's magic. It is the force of nature operating on a level way beyond your comprehension. You just sit and think. Seriously, think about childbirth and what it is. And if you think that you can understand how that process is working, you're lying. You're lying. The properties of water. Totally mystifying. Water has some of the most bizarre characteristics that do not apply to other liquids that we know of. Whether you want to talk about water memory or its freezing point or how it does this, and water is absolutely magic, right? How trees grow, how a mighty oak can spring from a tiny, tiny seed. This is natural earth, universal magic, powered by this invisible but divine force of intelligence. DNA. What is DNA? The amount of information packed into this genetic code. Baffling. Absolutely baffling. This is the work of God, or whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it, but it is a creative, intelligent force. Health is the degree to which that force is able to express its divinity through that physical vehicle unimpeded. Okay? And when this beautiful natural force operating in the backdrop behind all of creation in the universe, when it is allowed to work its harmony into whatever vehicle it's operating in, right? If it can do it unimpeded, the result is perfect balance and perfect harmony of that thing. So take a tree, for example. Because a tree doesn't have, like a human being, conscious, conceptualized thinking and whatnot, and individualized consciousness, the only real force that operates in it is the force of nature. And when nature operates in that thing, without the interference of an ego that can be fooled and misled and propagandized and brainwashed and all these things, basically truth, when truth operates through the tree, what you get is perfect harmony and perfect balance. The tree always does what is right. Tree always does what is moral. The tree never deviates. It never does what it's not supposed to do. It always does what it's supposed to do. And the result is a perfect balancing with the environment, right? They last virtually forever. They don't get sick. It's perfect harmony, just perfect harmony. physical bodies and physical vehicles can do this too, right? The only thing that takes away from that health is when the force of nature is interfered with, is muddled, is stifled. So when these natural forces are cut off from doing what they want to be doing, that's when you start to get an interference with perfect harmonic health. Now, as you can see, there is a big difference between health and fitness, because health is the perfect working of natural force in the body, and fitness is the capacity to do physical work. Now, what that means is that, like any other adaptation, I always like to use the callus adaptation thing, right? So if you grip a chin-up bar, for example, every day, all the time, it really doesn't matter what your level of health is. The skin on your hand is going to develop an adaptation to gripping that bar over and over and over and over. You can be the sickest person in the world, and that adaptation is always going to occur so long as you give it the right stimulus. So with physical fitness, as much as health does affect and improves your physical fitness, right? You can get very physically fit by sheer means of adaptation to stimuli without having a high degree of health. So you can stimulate the crap out of your body with stimulants that affect, metabolism, heart rate, the muscles, the musculoskeletal system, and all of these stimulants that increase their capacity to do work. But they can also come at the expense of health. Now, you don't need to look any further than professional athletes, to illustrate this. How many professional wrestlers die early despite looking like $1 million? How many long distance athletes? There's a very distinct danger in constantly taxing the body with long distance marathon endurance running. Chronic long distance exercise athletes are often no healthier than sedentary individuals that don't get much activity. In fact, in terms of health, the best place to be is at an average level of activity with a high degree of dietary health. And that gives you extreme longevity, and usually more longevity than extreme athletes. Extreme athletes are taxing their systems beyond taxation, and very often they have health complications, even though they are very physically fit. They do not have a high degree of health, however. So the biggest mistake that we can make is, again, conflating and equating these two phenomena together. Now, you can have a high degree of fitness without having a high degree of health. Yes. But in order to express the best health out of your system, you do need to have a level of physical fitness. So it'd be naive to think that physical fitness and exercise is not a good thing, right? That's obviously not the point. You need to have physical fitness in order to express the greatest health out of your system. But on the contrary, on the flip side, you don't necessarily need to have a high degree of health in order to have a high degree of fitness. Although health does affect your level of fitness, and if you do have a high degree of health, it will improve your fitness. But they don't necessarily need to go together, whereas on the other side, you do need some fitness in order to have a high degree of health. Now, because I grew up, in the martial arts, in gymnastics and acrobatics and whatnot, I like watching UFC. I like watching fighting sports. It's been something that has just interested me since I was a kid because I was always involved in the martial arts. And so one of the things I want to do to illustrate this is just give you a list of UFC fighters who have gone through physical ailments and diseases and sickness and whatnot, despite being some of the most well-conditioned athletes in the world. These people are at the top of the fitness game, right? You look at UFC athletes and their bodies and their physiques and what they're able to do, and it's just like these people are the epitome of ostensibly health and definitely fitness, right? You would imagine that their fitness is indicative of the type of diets that they subject themselves to. Their nutritionists or whatnot, you would imagine, are giving them the healthiest diets in order to get the highest level of physical fitness. But you find that, like many other athletes, these UFC fighters are capable of getting sick, getting diseases, getting cancers, running the whole gamut of physical degenerative disabilities that afflict any other normal person who lives a normal life, eating a normal diet. So I'm just going to go through this list. It's not going to be an exhaustive list. Now, again, I'm very open to correction on this. If I've got any of these facts or statements wrong, please let me know in the comments below. This is only what I could find. If I'm off on something, or one of the diseases or conditions that I list here had other circumstances associated with it, then just let me know, and I'll make a correction. So this isn't my final word on this. This is just what I could source together. A UFC fighter, Diego Rivas, came down with testicular cancer. Cancer is a very, very preventable thing. If you have a high degree of health, cancer is impossible. Diego Rivas had testicular cancer as a UFC fighter, a very fit guy. Coming off of an epic win at UFC 82, he went in to inspect a knee injury, I believe, and in the doctor checkup, it was revealed that he had testicular cancer. William Joplin, pancreatic cancer as a UFC fighter, died at age 41 with pancreatic cancer. Again, very, very preventable disease, high degree of health, cancer is impossible. William Joplin likely died, however, not as a result of the cancer, but likely as a result of the chemotherapy and all the ridiculous, totally absent-minded treatments that Western medicine subjects sick people to. Tatiana Suarez, a UFC fighter, thyroid cancer, had to deal with thyroid cancer very early in life, in her 20s. Thyroid cancer in her 20s. If I'm not mistaken, she was able to come back from the thyroid cancer and recover, but not after having several nodes removed, and the doctors just coming in and chopping up her throat, for a lack of a better term, but she's recovered now. But, thyroid cancer as a young adult. Randy Couture, Mr. Fitness himself, had a heart attack recently. A heart attack. According to him, he says he's always, for his whole life, had thick blood. Well, that's not just a normal thing. You don't have thick blood. The natural force of nature doesn't give you thick blood for no reason, because it just decides that that's how this particular person is going to be. No. Conditions have to be lived under that bring thick blood into existence. Now, again, those conditions can be brought on by your parents, right? And exacerbated by conditions that, your parents were responsible for. But it by no means means that the person has to be plagued with that for life. It's just a change in condition into a more harmonic mode of living that can regulate these processes of the body. Genetics has nothing to do with this. And where there is genetic predisposition, it can be countered and balanced by proper living. So Randy claimed he had this thick blood. He claimed he had high cholesterol, all his life. If I'm not mistaken, he claimed that, the stents are in my heart now, so now everything's going to be fine. No. Things are not going to be fine unless you ditch all the garbage meat, ditch all the other unnatural foods, and start living in alignment with natural diet. That's what's going to help avoid heart attacks in the future.
There are no other issues or restrictions on me. This new medication, especially the statin, will stabilize the plaque so we don't have any more plaque ruptures. Kind of trying to stay away from the red meat, but the statin, again, will keep my bad cholesterol.
John Hathaway, another UFC fighter, Crohn's disease, had to lay off fighting for a couple of years because he had to heal from this debilitating disease. Alex Volkanovski came down with a strange blood infection. I believe this occurred shortly after a fight with Jose Aldo. Whether it was some sort of contagion that he picked up, whether his body was just stressed out, who knows? But this likely had to do with the immense tax that goes into your system, having to go through a fight and your immune system's weak, very, very, very weak, and you get susceptible to these things. So I don't know what it is, but it's just another example of sickness befalling these people who seem on the surface to have a high degree of health as well as fitness. And as I'm demonstrating, these two are not the same. UFC fighter Victor Valimaki had a condition, neuromyelitis optica, which is a rare type of neurological disorder. It's also known as Devick's disease. According to him, something that he said, It's like, you know, you can be anybody, and this can happen to you. This can just happen to you. Doesn't matter who you are. You know, this disease is just out there somewhere in the wind, lurking in the shadows, and then it just finds a random person and goes, you, and just latches onto you, and now all of a sudden you've got a disease. No, that is not how it works. If nature worked under this chaotic principle of just disease can just afflict anyone at any time, the whole universe would be chaos, absolute chaos, if there wasn't strict order. Things only happen when certain conditions are met. That is it. This is the law. You don't get disease occurring for no reason because it's not possible for that to happen. Brock Lesnar, ex-WWE athlete, had diverticulitis. Diverticulitis having to do with the stomach and the gastric system, inflammation, whatnot, all diet related. Mike Swick, esophageal spasms and cramps causing chest pain after training. Ray Borg had viral infections that caused him to have to pull out of the UFC 215 main event, I believe. He also had to pull out of UFC 203 for other sickness reasons, if I'm not mistaken, right before the weigh-in. Jim Miller, another great UFC fighter, has had to deal with Lyme disease. Staph infections can be pretty common amongst UFC fighters. Kelvin Gastelum has had staph infections. Kevin Lee has had staph infections. Dan Miragliotta, who I referenced in another lecture, had a heart attack. Lots of meat and other garbage in his diet and got a heart attack, requiring quadruple bypass. GSP, the Canadian sensation, the pride of Canada. The guy had ulcerative colitis, right? This is only attributed to what you eat. Right? Your body is rebelling against what you put into the system and you get ulcerative colitis, right? This guy was the pinnacle of fitness. You look at him and he's just radiating health, but health doesn't really care too much about the size of the muscles and how long the heart can endure under, aerobic conditions. Amanda Nunes, UFC women's champion, had chronic sinusitis, had to pull out of UFC 213 shortly before the event, right? Just sick. Priscilla Cacuera, if I'm not pronouncing it incorrectly, came down with dengue fever, a dengue hemorrhagic fever. Kimbo Slice, a famous street fighter who turned UFC fighter, died because of heart complications. He had heart failure. Heart failure. Your heart doesn't fail if you're healthy. It's impossible. Anyway, okay, let's wrap this up. The point I just want to make is, like I've said before, please do not associate the current conception, the current zeitgeist of what fitness is and it being inextricable from health. It is not the case. And people in the cleansing community, in the raw diet, raw plant-based diet community, in the detox community, all these people who are searching to get healthier, whose bodies start purging and cleaning, getting thinner. Getting thinner is something that is just anathema to the health community. So as soon as you start losing a little bit of weight, sometimes physical fitness has to take a little bit of a back seat to the more important goal of health. And in the fitness community, we don't like that. And we don't like it because there is this connection between fitness and health that is not thoroughly understood. And I'm here to tell you, using these UFC fighters as examples, that health and fitness are very, very, very different beasts.
So, as you may have heard by now, Bob Harper, the super fit host of the reality TV show The Biggest Loser, suffered a heart attack while working out at a gym in New York City. Well, fortunately for Bob, a doctor was also working out then and managed to keep Bob alive by administering CPR and using defibrillation paddles. And Bob's super fortunate because often the first sign one has of having heart disease is death. Some people know Bob as the vegan trainer from The Biggest Loser. Well, yeah, he was a vegan from 2010 to 2013, but in late 2013, he decided to quit being vegan. He felt like his body needed something more. For him, that was more animal protein. It meant eating a lot more eggs and chicken in his daily diet. I bring up his vegan past is because Bob said while he was vegan that he felt great and clear-headed, and he said his genetically high cholesterol dropped 100 points while vegan. And also I want to mention that he blames his genetics on his having that heart attack because he says his mom died of a heart attack at the age of 70. Well, Bob is just 51, about 20 years younger than his mom. So what's going on here? Okay, well, Bob is super fit. He presumably eats pretty well. So how is it possible that he had a heart attack? Well, Kim Williams, president of the American College of Cardiology, says you just can't simply exercise your way out of a standard American diet. And sure, Bob probably ate better than your normal American, but still, a standard American diet is punctuated by high animal protein, lots of eggs. Speaking of eggs, that's what Bob ate for breakfast every day. We'd have 2 or 3 eggs every day for breakfast. Well, how does that affect your risk for cardiovascular disease?
Someone who is healthy is beyond sickness. I have yet to develop as much as a cold, as much as sniffles, ever since I really cleaned up my diet and started taking it very seriously and going mostly fruit-based. I can wake up every single day to good health, never being sick, ever. Thousands of people out there are doing this, who are living in a way that they just do not get sick, right? They cannot get sick so long as they continue to subject their bodies to the conditions that do not align with the development of sickness. Whereas you get these very healthy, very fit individuals, exercising and working out and eating, kind of okay, moderate diets, and these people can get sick. There's this very imbalanced masculine conception of go hard, balls to the wall, give it everything you got, blood and tears in the gym, wake up, eat, sleep, gym. We have all of these meat-headed types of approaches to physical fitness. If you're not leaving everything behind in the gym, you're not working out properly, you're not doing it right, you gotta go hard every day. This is nonsense. This is not the ideal way to exercise or work out. It is not necessary to go balls to the wall every single day, right? Or every time you work out. You're not getting the optimal type of stimulation for development of fitness when you do that, because you are breaking yourself down faster than you can repair. Rest and recuperation are just as important, if not more important, than the actual physical activity portion of the process. So diet and lifestyle are huge, are key to this development of health. And when it comes to physical activity, it's important to have an active lifestyle, be active every day. When it comes to really, really pounding yourself, this should be done probably with far less frequency than people think is necessary. So, a very, very hard workout session, probably get away with doing that once a week, twice a week, maybe, if you recover very well. And then the rest of the time, you can exercise, you can be active, but not in a way that taxes your body and drains you. So doing the CrossFit thing, for example, of just destroying yourself. So there's a couple Netflix documentaries on CrossFit. Go watch them. They're fun. But there's a common denominator of these people that say, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Never worked out this hard in my life. Every single day, you're just destroying yourself. And yeah, you're destroying yourself. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. That is not how you're supposed to exercise. Do you see any other organism on planet Earth that have high levels of fitness? Cheetahs, wolves, dogs, gazelles, deer, lions, tigers, hyenas, all these gorillas, monkeys, all these ridiculously athletic animals. Do you see them going balls to the wall and just, they go through exercise and then they just they're dead? How often do you see them doing this? They're always active. Yeah, let's take a look at monkeys, for example. They're always active. They're always doing things, but they're not necessarily destroying themselves so that they can't move, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. This just doesn't happen, right? It's good to be active, but whether you're doing cardiovascular work or whether you're doing work at the gym, musculoskeletal fitness and whatnot, you can do all these things and you can pretty much do them every day. But the times where you go very, very hard, these should be kept to a minimum, once or twice a week, and then the rest of the times you can play, you can do other things. It's not the purpose of this lecture to go into that. If you want me to go into what types of activity you should do, just let me know. I can whip something up for you guys. But the point is, don't be misled by high degrees of fitness and don't equate that with health. They are two different things. So when you lead a very healthy lifestyle, you can be very, very healthy and very physically fit. But in terms of bringing out and expressing the best and highest types of evolution and human potential, focus on fitness should take us a little bit of a backseat to a focus on health, because it is health that brings out all of the rest of the wonderful potentials of human life. And fitness only does that to a certain degree. And if you put too much focus on fitness, it will actually detract from your life and your lifespan, your overall mortality, right? As opposed to those who are very, very healthy and very clean, and who are allowing the force of nature to run smoothly through their bodies without polluting their systems with all of the ridiculous stimulants that physically fit people often do. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for sitting in on this little episode. Subscribe to the FreeMelon Society today. Don't miss on any other videos that we're going to be releasing in the future. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time here on the FreeMelon Society.